Wow, so many faces. And now we are all awake, right? With this alarm clock. And David, I guess, David Frank, he did a great job in waking us up. And if it sounded a little bit strange and weird, that's just a pre-taste of what you get in the next 3 years. Because this university tries to somehow go against most of what is kind of settled truth, if there is at all a settled truth. This university tries to look at things from different perspectives, and perhaps to be a little bit, as Günther Eich said, sand in the wheels and the cogwheels of this world. Not make it just happening as normal, not playing along with power relations, but to challenge it and to ask yourself, what can I do to perhaps even transform the world? Now, one of my colleagues, Stefan Sonnenburg, and he is sorry that he can't be here today, he has the topic of the hero's journey. Campbell, a religious scientist, basically was looking into what he called the monomyth. In Deutsch, Campbell hat in ganz viele Mythen geschaut und sich überlegt, da gibt es immer eine gleiche Struktur oder eine ähnliche Struktur, das nennt er Monomythos, Monomyth. Oder the hero's journey. So, what is it about the hero's journey? The hero's journey, as your journey today, starts with perhaps a peaceful world, everything is wonderful, and you just want to stay there. But there's somebody with an alarm clock, get out, there is something in this world to be done. Irgendjemand schiebt dich in diese Welt und sagt, in dieser Welt gibt es etwas, was getan werden muss. And after a lot of reluctance, after a lot of bickering and thought, finally you get up and you get out in the world. And you want to do something, you want to change something. As most of you want. But it's not so easy. There is a lot of kind of ordeals. Eine Menge an Prüfungen wartet auf euch. And all these ordeals somehow need the hero, and you are the hero in this journey, you are the hero in your own journey. A lot of these ordeals need to be kind of successfully, more or less. Perhaps there's also failure, vielleicht gibt es auch Scheitern in dieser hero's journey, fulfilled in order to get to the climax, to the final ordeal, where you have to have this big kind of Prüfung. And if you pass that, you might be in another world. You might be in another world where everything is transformed, everything is changed, but then the real difficulties start. You want to come back, but you have transformed in the meantime, and now wanting to change the rest of the world is not so easy because other people somehow need to be taken along on that journey. Es ist gar nicht so einfach, nach dieser Feuerprobe wieder in diese Welt zurückzukommen, in der noch nicht alles verändert ist und in der ihr selber etwas verändern und transformieren wollt. But finally, you might or might not succeed. Now, we're talking a lot about post-heroic leadership. And so, perhaps we need to read this story, the hero's journey, in a new way. Perhaps it's not just about heroes. Heroes, we all have pictures in mind, usually male, masculine, sometimes toxic masculinity. Perhaps we need to see the concept of a hero in a new way. Perhaps we need to see the concept of a hero in a way that what the hero has on his journey in terms of ordeals, in terms of difficult situations, basically is not only a challenge by the outside world, but first and foremost a challenge the personality has in and of itself. So the hero with all the ordeals might, in the way to transform, first and foremost transform herself. Die Heldenreise, vielleicht nicht ein Held, wie wir ihn klassisch im Kopf haben, egal von Odysseus bis Herakles, ein männlicher Held, vielleicht sogar toxisch männlich, der sozusagen die Führung übernimmt, sondern möglicherweise eine neue Definition von Heldentum, nämlich ein Heldentum, das vor allem sich selbst transformiert, bei der jeder einzelne Schritt auf dieser Heldenreise etwas ist, bei der die Person an sich selbst arbeitet, den eigenen Charakter, die eigene Persönlichkeit in den Mittelpunkt stellt. Like Beyond said, there is people who are kind of completely blind. They might be prone to manipulation, either they are manipulated or they manipulate. Then there are people that look behind the curtain and see and detect like destructive power relations in this world, and they might be able to not be manipulated, but perhaps to manipulate themselves, as long as they are blind towards themselves. Only if they start to not be blind towards themselves, but to think about themselves, to realize their own weaknesses, their own pathologies, their own strengths and their own talents, they start to become what could be called an essential or a complete personality. And that's what Karlshochschule is about. These people then are not manipulating others and not prone to be manipulated, but they somehow can rest in themselves as an essential and complete personality in order to make a change in the world. So what we plan to do in Karlshochschule is, of course, we will tell you how to survive in the systems out there. Of course, you will get instrumental knowledge. Otherwise, after 3 years, you would be out of Karlshochschule not able to change anything because they would just throw you away. But then in the next step, we work on your own personality together. We have a lot of professors and coaches that together with you try to get more knowledge about yourself, and we start right in this first week. By the way, there is a ritual, also a toxic masculinity ritual, that people binge drink in the first week. That's not what Karlshochschule students do. At least until Thursday, we want to concentrate. What you do in the weekend, I know, I've been a student before, but until Thursday, we want to concentrate on exactly that. Also learn about ourselves as a person, as a group, as people who want to go on a journey, and this is also a journey to yourself. In order to become this complete person that then would be able to make a change. And that means also to convince others, and the possibility to be with others, to work with others, to participate and be participatory, although you have a clear idea of what the world should be, would be the third step in what Karlshochschule ought to be. But all of that would not be sufficient if there wasn't the fourth step, which is a clear orientation in this world of what is good and not. What you feel is the values that you want to represent. So the fourth and essential point is not only to have the instruments, not only to be able to challenge the instruments, to challenge the world as it is, not only to convince others to go along and form a social movement in order to do that, but then also to know why you're doing that, to have Oriental knowledge. I talk about the heroes, and there was one person who was very interested in heroes, and he was on a journey, almost a lifelong journey. It was Giordano Bruno, a Renaissance person who started to be a monk, but then left this and challenged authorities almost wherever he was. In Rome, then he went to Geneva, Calvin, then he went on to Lyon, then he went to Berlin and Frankfurt, and wherever he was, he challenged the authorities, and after some time he needed to go. So this was a hero's journey, definitely. And as I said, the hero's journey includes the possibility to fail. Das Scheitern ist immer eingeschlossen. But the important thing is, especially in Bruno, that he had a couple of things that he tried to bring together. The autonomy of the person, being able to take their fate in their own hands, as opposed to the idea of the medieval times, when Fortuna was the fate that was just out there. And, on the other hand, the wholeness of a world, of a society, and of a universe that somehow makes you not just an individuum that is out there and not together with others. Autonomy and togetherness. Knowledge, Erkenntnis, and orientation. To acknowledge that knowledge, all you can learn in this university, a lot of knowledge is always not being there, but always being on the way. It's always not being, but becoming. And there's always one more step that perhaps you in your generation can't do, but the next generation might do. So you contribute to what is called an intertextual discourse, where one somehow builds upon the others. Giants on the shoulders, or we on the shoulders of giants, that take further what was done and thought before, but always with the knowledge that there is always a little bit left. And then also initiative, like Hannah Arendt said. Most of the philosophers were kind of concerned with the death. Perhaps we should be more concerned with the start, and a philosophy of naivety. So being born, and by this being able to always have a new start and take initiative, although sometimes it's difficult, would then be the idea. And in so doing, Giordano Bruno positions the hero somewhere between the pure humans with their kind of ordinary love and the godly love, where everything is somehow fate, but says we take it into our own hands. The fate, we take it in our own hands. Another poet, philosopher, Camus, said it as follows. You've already grasped that Sisyphus is the absurd hero. Sisyphus is somehow punished to always roll a rock upon a hill, but then the rock comes down again, and then Sisyphus goes back down and takes the rock again and takes the rock up. And then he said, Camus said, it's during that return, that pause, that Sisyphus interests me. A face so close to stones is already stone itself. I see him going back down with a heavy yet measured step towards the torment of which he will never know the end. That hour, like a breathing space, which returns as surely as his suffering, that is the hour of consciousness. At each of those moments, when he leaves the heights and gradually sinks toward the layers of the gods, he is superior to his fate. He is stronger than his rock. On the one hand, this myth is tragic, he says, because the hero is conscious. But on the other hand, he said, all of Sisyphus' silent joy is contained therein. His fate belongs to him. His rock is a thing. There's no God, he takes the fate himself. Likewise, in the absurd, we fight knowing that all of the fight, to some extent, is only a way which never probably reaches a goal. I leave Sisyphus at the foot of the mountain. One always finds one's burden again. But Sisyphus teaches the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raises rocks. He too concludes that all is well. The universe, henceforth without a master, seems to him neither sterile nor futile. Each atom of that stone, each mineral flake of that night-filled mountains, in itself forms a world. The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a person's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. So I wish you a good journey, a hero's journey in the sense of not being heroic, but of being conscious about yourself and others, and trying to contribute and transform this world. Thank you so much.